It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Army Black Knights head women's basketball coach, Missy Traversi. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into college coaching?
I didn't realize that this was my path until I was done playing professionally. I had played overseas for a couple of years, had a short stint with the Chicago Sky WNBA team. And then I decided I was going to do a couple of personal training lessons, get into some high school coaching. And before you knew it, I was hooked. This game has been with me a very long time, and it continues to motivate and drive me. And it's a privilege every day to get up here at West Point and be around these cadets, let me tell you.
What was it like playing for Maine Black Bears college basketball?
This great state of Maine. I love my Maine people. It was really a community. They have a way of just getting under your skin and staying there. We had a great support staff there, great fan support. Coaching staff was tremendous. I had an incredible experience. We actually won 3 out of the 4 years, America East championships, and went to the NCAAs twice. So it was a winning tradition there. My 4 years, it continues to be a winning tradition at the University of Maine. I can't say enough good things about the state of Maine and the people that are in it and my experience.
What were some of your accomplishments during your playing career?
Oh my goodness, accomplishments. At Maine or prior to Maine? At Maine, you're talking about?
Yes, Maine.
So, I would say outside of the team championships, because that's the biggest accomplishment, is just being a point guard and floor leader and helping my team win a championship. That was probably the biggest accomplishment. But outside of that, I would say the fact that academically I was able to be an honor roll student and also score 1,000 points. I think I was up there with assists as well. I can't really remember the numbers, but I would say that the biggest accomplishment is definitely the team and the academic, because playing Division I athletics is hard to do. Never mind put academics on top of that. Never mind put winning on top of that. So being successful as a student athlete, I take a lot of pride in.
What was it like for you to put on the Maine Black Bears black and powder blue jersey?
I didn't, when I was a freshman, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't have enough background or experience about what Maine women's basketball was all about. I really had to do a deep dive into learning the alumni and what the tradition, what it really stood for. And I think back to players like Cindy Blodgett, Amy Vachon, who's currently the coach there now. They left their mark on that program. They continue to leave their mark on this program. And, I owe them a lot of credit, and I'm certainly, I'm a beneficiary of what they did. So I took a lot of pride as I moved forward throughout my 4 years there. I would say as a freshman, I didn't know. I was just trying to get through it, trying to survive. But as time grew and we formed relationships with former players and even former coaches, I definitely understood how remarkable it was just to be associated with those type of people.
What was it like, obviously, leaving Maine to obviously go into professional basketball?
A surprise. I didn't realize that there had been some European scouts watching our games, and I didn't realize that some of those scouts had been in contact with my head coach. So that was all very shocking to me when my head coach brought me in towards the end of my season, my senior season, and said, "Hey, you have an opportunity to go overseas and play the game you love. And oh yeah, get paid for it." And I said, "Oh, where do I sign?" I immediately took to that, and I was in no rush to start the real world, so to speak. And I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I had that overseas experience and meeting new people, experiencing a different culture. and a different style of basketball too. So yeah, I was shocked. I didn't even realize that was a thing. So sometimes if you just put your head down and you work hard, good things present. And that was a prime example.
What was your playing career like professionally?
My first year in Sweden was, I would say it was one of my better years. I kind of went in eyes wide open, kind of like I do in every new situation, and just was myself. And I was able to kind of get the respect of my teammates and my coaches just through my work ethic. And I had a pretty good first year. I think that I was the number one player scorer in Sweden my first year, which gave me the opportunity to try out for the Chicago Sky WNBA that summer. So my first year was probably my most successful from a statistical standpoint. But I would say in my second season, we had more team success. I think I was a year smarter, and I was definitely not as fast, or maybe not as skilled, because I was getting older, but I was definitely smarter, and I was able to really pull the team together to win more games. So yeah, I would say my first year from an individual standpoint was more successful.
What was it like, obviously, getting to play with Chicago Sky and in the WNBA?
Oh, opportunity of a lifetime. I had dreamed about that since I was a little girl. I always wanted to be a professional athlete. I played multiple sports growing up. I swam, I played tennis, I played soccer, I played basketball. And I mean, sports and competition was just in my bones. And I didn't know how to not compete. And, for me to be able to look back at those younger years and all the aspirations that I had of becoming a professional athlete, and not really knowing what it takes, and then actually getting to that stage was pretty powerful for me. When I was there, I will say this, it was very humbling. I was not as good as I thought I was. I was not as fast. I was definitely not as tall or as physical. They definitely, they showed me what was up, some of those players. And I'm grateful for it, because that's the beauty of sport. It continues to humble you. And right when you think you've arrived, it tells you haven't. So it was a wonderful opportunity. Glad I had it. Sad when I was cut, obviously. That's never a good feeling, but it was a dream of mine and something that I check off my list.
What was the feeling like of getting to put on that WNBA jersey for the first time?
Kind of surreal, definitely surreal. I remember being in media day and being next to players like Stacey Dale Schumann, and, just being kind of blown away, almost awestruck by some of the talent that I was around. And I mean, that's what it is when you're on the big stage and you're around professional athletes. You're a bit awestruck, and that's what it felt like. I wish I could say I kept basketball, but it's hard at that level, because there's so many variables, and whether it's media, whether it's your brand, it's just a lot of different things you're working out outside of basketball.
What was the transition like from you, from going from being a professional athlete to obviously getting into coaching, and coaching at, of course, assistant coach at Harvard?
So when I came back from overseas, I didn't know where I was going to go, where I was going to end up. I knew that I wanted to start running some camps and some clinics, because I had all this knowledge from playing at a high level. And I knew there were younger players in my area, younger girls that could benefit from that. So I actually started my own company. It was called MT Elite. And I ran that for about 10 years, believe it or not. And it was comprised of about 300 athletes. We had AAU teams. We ran summer camps. We did private lessons, small group sessions. And that was really where the coaching started for me. That's where the passion grew. I was able to still get my competitive fix that I had as a player. And that kind of catapulted me to wanting more. And from being a high school head coach to saying, hey, can I be an assistant at a high level? And I was fortunate to be able to work with Kathy Delaney Smith. She wealth of knowledge. She's, I believe, Ivy League winningest coach, I believe. You'll have to check that. But she had the knowledge and the experience that I needed to learn about the business. So it was, again, very fortunate. I think my hard work led me to that stop. And yeah, it just grew. wanting to coach, and then obviously wanting to be a head coach and kind of run the show and live and die on my sword and my beliefs and what I think good basketball looks like, kind of led me to this stop.
What was that transition like from obviously being an assistant coach at Harvard to obviously getting your first coaching job as the head coach?
Oh, can you repeat that? Sorry, you kind of faded out.
What was the transition like from going from Harvard, where you were assistant coach, to getting your first head coaching job?
I don't think it was a big transition at all. I think it was pretty seamless. I think that when you have certain beliefs and you love what you do, it's never really too stressful. And I kind of took that approach from being an assistant at Harvard and going in to be a head coach at the Division III level. I didn't feel much stress. I knew I wanted to perform and I wanted to win. And the program that I took over hadn't won in a long time. So I knew that it could only go up. So yeah, just more eyes wide open, enthusiastic, really grateful for the opportunity and just wanted to outwork everyone.
What was your time like at Wheelock College?
Wheelock. Yeah, Wheelock. I still smile when I think about Wheelock. Our slogan was "Win at Wheelock." And we did. We ended up winning at Wheelock. It took us some time, but I had athletes that they were so bought in. And again, they didn't know me. I didn't know them. And we actually didn't even have a gym, believe it or not. We didn't have our own basketball gym. So we had to rent space about 15 minutes down the road, 20 minutes down the road. We didn't have ideal practice time. So if you can picture, Brandon, I would get up. I lived about 50 minutes from the city because Wheelock was in Boston. So I would get up in the morning and I would drive to Wheelock. I would get the keys to this 15 passenger van and I would pick up my players at their dorm and we would drive. This was like 5 a.m. in the morning. So I was up at like 4 a.m. getting going. 5 a.m. I'd pick them up. And then we would practice at like 5:45, 6 o'clock before their first class. And I think back to that time, like, how did I do that? Like what? But I had so much fun. I don't know what it was. Every morning, just going to work with those athletes. And I didn't know if they were going to show up every morning. I could open up that van door and nobody would be there, but they were always there. And I'll tell you what, I don't get to Army West Point without Wheelock and without the athletes that I shared space with in that van. And those early morning rises they were tough, but I'm so happy that it led me here.
What was your time like as the head coach at Alfred University?
At Adelphi?
Yes.
Adelphi. Yeah, I worked for an incredible boss, athletic director, Danny McCabe, who's still there today. And we came in my first year. I had a very strong senior class. The prior coach had actually I believe she went to Wagner. So she was a Division I coach, went from Division II Adelphi, took the Wagner job. So that opened up this position. I had a very strong senior class. We ended up having a pretty remarkable first season. I think we had 27, 28 wins my first year. Had a 15-game winning streak, was able to coach an All-American. Yeah, I mean, talk about starting well. That happened in my first year. I think it was a buy-in from the seniors that right away that helped. And I also think I was surrounded by a support staff and Danny McCabe that allowed me to be who I was as a coach and didn't micromanage me. And allowed me to kind of run things the way I wanted to run them. And we were able to do some special things. And then year 2, we had more of a rebuilding year. Year 3 started trending upwards again. And then this past year before COVID, we had another sensational championship run. So we had 2 championship runs out of my 4 years. And again, credit to the athletes, credit to the seniors, credit to Danny McCabe, my athletic director. Just a tremendous experience for me coaching in the Northeast 10. Tremendous.
What was it like from obviously going from, of course, schools that aren't military schools to going to Army, where obviously
yeah, different. Different. It's a whole different ball game here. I think for the better. you're not dealing sometimes with the discipline issues that you have with athletes at times. You're not dealing with, tardiness or, players acting out. I mean, you still have your fair share of issues, but it's not even close to what a civilian college would be like. They're held to a high standard here. And it's whether it's down the hill or up the hill, they have to sustain that on a consistent basis. And I'm lucky enough to just be a part of that. And I think it stands true to my values and what I believe in and hard work. And that's why I think this is just such a perfect fit for me. But it is absolutely different. It's different.
Of course, as you enter year one of Army, what are some of your future plans for the program?
Again, you cut out. Sorry, Brandon. Can you say that again?
Of course, as you enter year one of Army, what are some of your future plans for the program?
Yeah, I'm trying to be where my feet are. I think it's really easy to look ahead and say, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm sure every coach you ask, they are going to say the same thing. I want to win. I want to win right away. And yeah, I want all that, but things happen. And that's one thing I've learned in this profession. You have to be able to pivot and evolve and adjust and based on your climate. So I want to, one of the goals that I have is just being present with my current team and being fully locked into their needs, whether it's from a personnel standpoint, positionally, or just as people. With our coaching staff, I'm lucky to be surrounded by some pretty fantastic humans and my assistant coaches. And they remind me every day, just, how needy some of these players are. And that's not a bad thing. I think needy is sometimes looked at as negative. I think they need us and they need to know that we're there for them, not only as coaches, but as people. So I think my biggest goal this year is just making sure they know that we care, making sure they know that we're going to love them tough, and making sure they know that we're not going to let them make excuses. We're going to coach them to their edge, and we're going to make sure we get the most out of them and maximize their talent. So that's really my goal in this first year. But down the road, I can say all those cliche, I want to win championships. Of course I do. I wouldn't be here if I didn't want to win.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you have started to build at Army?
That was number one for me. Getting hired, coming in and instilling our culture. That was really, really a key component to kind of changing the style and the approach. And, I was lucky to take over for Dave McGarity. He had a very storied career here. They won here, and they've showed us that it can be done. I think for me and my personality and how I like to do things, I just wanted to make sure it was more collaborative with the players. So, making them feel kind of my personality and letting them in and growing that trust with transparent conversations and just kind of staying ahead on topics that maybe they've avoided in the past. So we're really big on bringing those conversations into the room and being proactive and not letting drama kind of take over in our culture. So we do believe everything starts with a team first mentality. We do believe that it's important to give energy and not take it. And those are just two prime examples of what we've already started instilling here. But from a stylistic standpoint and a technical standpoint, we play fast. We play fast here. And that was different from what they were used to. They were kind of used to more of a half court style. And again, no knock on the former coaches. That was kind of what they did. And now, we came in and we're trying to speed things up a little bit more. And, they've really taken to that. It's not perfect. By no means is it perfect. Every day we're getting better. We're learning. There's even days where we take steps back, and we're just trying to every day be as productive as we can. And move a little bit closer to our ultimate goal. So
what is the recruitment process like for prospective student athletes and in particularly prospective candidates of Army?
It's a pretty rigorous admissions process. It takes a lengthy amount of time. So look at Brandon, I could go out on the road and I could find 200 players, the month of July that I'm just on fire about. And I think from a basketball standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, just from kind of watching them during July, I'm on fire about, and I want to get on the phone with them, and I want to sell Army, and I want to coach them. But the reality is talent is just one component here. It's just because they can play doesn't mean academically they can handle the rigor here. It also doesn't mean that medically they're cleared for it. So there's just all these pieces that you have to check in order to be Army West Point. And that's what makes this place so special is athletically, you have to have it. Academically, you have to have it. Medically, physically fit. I mean, there's just all these different components. And if you don't, you're not going to be able to get recruited here. So I try not to look at it as a barrier. I think it's easy to look at it as a barrier, like, oh, there's all this red tape, but hey, West Point is West Point for a reason. We coach the best and the brightest. We want to get the best and the brightest here. We're developing future leaders of character. That's what this place is about. So I don't know if that answers the question, but
what is it like to obviously see the candidates in the uniform and then obviously go on to serve the country?
So Brandon, this is my first year. So I actually don't have that feeling yet. I'm sure I'm going to have it when this senior class graduates, this being my first year, but this first D class rather. But I can imagine just with the bonds and the time that I've spent and the bonds that have been formed in this short period of time, it's going to be very emotional. You know, they understand sacrifice, they understand commitment and discipline better than most. And yeah, it's going to be pretty special watching them move on. But I have no doubt they're going to go on and do some pretty incredible things.
What advice would you give prospective student athletes looking to play college basketball?
Looking to play college basketball, I think set yourself up for success academically. What I'm learning is if you want to get into these prestigious schools, you really, your transcript has to show it. Your test scores have to show it. So just prioritizing the academic piece, you know, just because you can score 30 a game doesn't mean you're a perfect fit for a school like West Point or even an Ivy League institution. So just prioritizing the academics, I think would be the best advice. And, you know, whether it's SAT prep or, you know, any type of tutoring sessions, I think that's really important. And then also like understanding if you want military, you know, doing your background on what this place is all about. It's a different sell here. It's you're giving 5 years of a commitment on top of your 4 years. So just opening your eyes to what that would look like from a future standpoint.
What advice would you give for future college coaches looking to get started into becoming head coaches or even getting a start in college basketball?
Yeah, don't be too big to do the small things. Like, I'm not saying that, you know, you've got to follow a path like mine, but you have to be willing to get kind of down and dirty in the little mundane tasks and the hard stuff and the gritty stuff. And, you know, my example of waking up at 4 a.m. for an entire season and driving to Boston and getting the 15 passenger van and, you know, taking my team to practice. And, you know, that's what was required. And I think every college coach has a story like that. I don't think I'm any different, but I think we live in kind of a culture where people want success right away, and entitlement does play a factor. So being okay with just having like your foot in the door and outworking people and kind of doing what most people don't want to do. I think that's the advice. Like, you know, volunteer. If you can't get a foot in the door, volunteer, network, touch base with the right people. And ultimately, like, when the lights shut off and everybody goes home, you're still working, you're still pounding the pavement.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Army women's basketball program at?
Oh boy, now I got to pull up my social media. I don't know it by heart. That's bad. So my Twitter handle is at Coach Traversi, and my Instagram, I think, is just Missy. Yeah, it's just Missy Traversi, all lowercase. And then for Army West Point, let's see here, should be pretty seamless. It is at Army West Point _ WBB on Twitter. And then for Instagram, Army West Point WBB, all one word.
Thank you again, Coach Missy Traversi, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as you begin your new coaching career at Army.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. Good luck to you.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Missy, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.